Welcome to today's deep dive. We've got a massive stack of recent trade memos, legal analyses, and government briefings to go through today.
Yeah, it is quite a lot of paperwork to unpack.
It really is. So our mission today is to figure out exactly what this massive shift in the global tech supply chain means for you. Specifically, we're looking at the Department of Commerce's Bureau of Industry and Security rule from September 29, 2025.
Right, the infamous affiliates rule.
Exactly. So to understand this shift, think about how tech export controls used to work. It was basically like a bouncer at a club using a really simple VIP blacklist.
I mean, if a company wasn't on the list, you could just sell to them.
Right. It didn't matter if they were literally the corporate sister of a banned troublemaker. Under the old rules, legally distinct meant, well, legally distinct.
Yeah, but that era of technicalities is officially over. The new affiliates rule completely upends that framework.
So how does it actually work now?
Well, now, if a non-U.S. entity is 50% or more owned by parties on the entity list or, the military end user list, they automatically face the exact same severe trade curbs as the sanctioned parent company.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. It's essentially importing the strict know your customer standards we see in banking over to the hardware supply chain.
That banking analogy makes perfect sense, actually. So instead of just checking a name at the door, regulators are demanding a full corporate blood test.
They really are.
But here's where it gets really interesting to me. The jurisdiction of this rule is just wild, because if we bring in the foreign direct product rule, the U.S. isn't just checking companies operating within its own borders.
No, not at all.
They are policing transactions globally, right?
They are. What's fascinating here is if you are a foreign manufacturer operating entirely outside the U.S., but you use even a fraction of controlled American technology.
Wait, even just a fraction?
Yeah, literally a fraction of U.S. tech or software in your manufacturing process. Your final product is treated as American.
So the U.S. tech acts almost like a regulatory contagion?
Exactly. That's a great way to put it. It is aggressively extraterritorial. It doesn't matter who you sell to directly anymore. What matters is who owns the entity you're selling to, anywhere on the planet.
That sounds incredibly complicated.
Oh, it is. Compliance is no longer just running a buyer's name through some screening software. It is a complex forensic audit of their entire corporate family tree.
Which brings us to the actual mechanics of how a company is supposed to pull that off. Okay, let's unpack this, because the documents mention something called Red Flag 29.
Yes, Red Flag 29.
And reading through it, it sounds like a complete logistical nightmare. If I sell a microchip to a distributor in Europe, I can't just take their word for it that they're independent.
No, you can't. Red Flag 29 shifts the legal burden entirely onto you, the seller.
So I'm on the hook.
You are. If there is even a suspicion that a sanctioned entity might hold a minority stake in your buyer, you have to trace the ownership of that distributor.
All the way up.
All the way up the chain. You have to definitively prove no blacklisted party holds a 50% share.
But why force legitimate companies to play private investigator like that? Corporate structures are notoriously opaque.
Well, it comes down to what policymakers call the whack-a-mole problem.
Right, the whack-a-mole loophole.
Yeah. Look at what happened with companies like Huawei or Yangtze Memory Technologies under the old rules. A banned tech giant would just spin up a shell company in a third country.
Or use some obscure straw buyer.
Exactly, to purchase restricted American AI gear. By the time regulators realized that, independent buyer was actually a front funneling equipment to a military-linked firm, the gear was already gone.
It was too late.
Right. So this rule tried to definitively close those loopholes.
Okay, but if I'm a hardware vendor, how am I supposed to realistically verify the DNA of a third-tier buyer? Doesn't this guarantee massive supply chain bottlenecks?
Well, U.S. officials argue this is simply the only practical way to prevent workarounds and protect military edges without disrupting the legitimate market.
But industry folks disagree.
Strongly. Industry experts are warning of unprecedented delays. They're predicting widespread uncertainty about international counterparties because the standard for compliance is just so absolute.
Right, the pressure is immense. So what does this mean for you listening right now? There was a temporary 60-day general license to help companies adapt.
Yeah, but that grace period expired in late November 2025.
So the runway is gone.
It is entirely gone. If you do international business, having structural visibility into your end users is no longer just a best practice.
It is the law.
It is the law. Contracts now require overhauled, strict end-user certificates, and internal compliance mechanisms have to look deep into the corporate DNA of every single buyer.
The silicon curtain has officially fallen. Which leaves us with a massive kind of provocative question to consider.
Absolutely.
If compliance now demands absolute certainty about the corporate DNA of every buyer on Earth, will the sheer legal risk eventually force Western companies to just stop exporting technology altogether?